This book chapter will cover the topic of suicidal terrorism motivation, what motivates suicide attackers. This chapter is part of the 2015 Motivation and Emotion online textbook. This chapter will aim to explain the motivation behind suicide attacks by answering the following questions. What is the history of suicide attacks? How does the collective effort model and rational choice theory apply to suicide attacker motivation? Are there any other motivators behind suicide attacks? And how can an understanding of these theories and motivators assist policymakers to reduce suicide attack prevalence? The history of suicide attacks are explored by looking at kamikaze attacks and suicide bombings, as these are the most publicized forms. The top motivators for kamikaze attackers were having an honorable or beautiful death, contributing to the war effort, and seeing their actions as critical to the war. The top motivators for suicide bombers were revenge, religious reasons, a desire for national liberation, and cultural or environmental factors. From a theoretical standpoint, the two best theories for explaining this motivation are the collective effort model and rational choice theory. Other motivational factors that help to explain suicide attacker motivation, but are not theoretically based, are a quest for personal significance, misinterpretation of religion, resistance to foreign forces, martyrdom, and altruism. The collective effort model is an extension of Room's expectancy theory, where Carrer and Williams, 1993, added 3 extra components to instrumentality that measures the effect of social loafing. The authors agreed with Room's theory for motivational drive and added the social loafing components as they believed this was also an important factor for motivation. Therefore, if the individual sees relationships in the added instrumentality factors, they will be inclined to not social loaf, which also increases their motivational drive for the suicide attack. Rational choice theory can also be used to explain suicide attacker motivation. Rational choice theory is where the individual creates a cost-benefit analysis of the act. If the benefits outweigh the negatives, then the motivation is high. Here you can see an individual's cost-benefit analysis table for whether or not they should complete a suicide attack. As the positives definitely outrank the negatives, the individual is highly likely to go through with the attack. Suicide attacks are on the rise in the 21st century due to their effectiveness. The top reasons why they are an effective tactic are because attackers have access to a large variety of vulnerable targets, the associated material costs are low, and suicide attacks kill in large numbers. Understanding what motivates suicide attackers can be useful for policymakers, state agencies, and educators, as it helps them to identify risk factors and to understand recruitment and persuasion tactics used by terrorist cell leaders. Thank you for listening, and here's a list of my references.